Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro and Strength and Speed owner, Evan Paparis. We've got a guest on the line today. Before we get to him, though, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Yoked. If you're not familiar with Yoked, it is powdered fertilized egg yolk. It comes in these little packets. You're supposed to essentially eat it with protein, and the clinical trials show 3 times the muscle growth compared to a placebo. So, show some good clinical trials there. It actually tastes really good. Like the little packets, when I eat one, I want there to be more. Like I want to eat a big bowl full of it, which sounds weird. But it actually is really good. You can head over and check them out. Check out the actual study on their website, www.yoked.com. And if you want to order some, Strength 20 gets you 20% off every order, and you can reuse that as many times as you want. All right, we're going to be talking about strength stuff, so let me introduce our guest. We have Airek Dilley on the line. So, Airek, say hi. Pretty good. We'll read a quick version of your bio, and then we'll jump into the podcast and cover about what we're going to be talking about. So, as a kid, he was into extreme sports. High school, played football and ran track. Afterwards, got into drugs pretty heavy until about 2013. In rehab, he was introduced to CrossFit and OCR, and he continued CrossFit out of rehab for 6 months. Fell about 30 feet off a mountain and broke his femur, ankle, and both hands. So pretty serious injury there. And then all he wanted to do was run at that point. So he kind of got into OCR, became an ACE certified personal trainer and Spartan SGX coach in 2017. He's been racing for 3 years. First race was a Warrior Dash, and kind of big strength athlete there. So in addition to doing CrossFit, he specializes in things like the DRX games, which we're going to talk about on this episode. And he's also a sponsored athlete for Nightmare Challenge, which is part of the Ohio Grand Slam, which we're also going to talk about. And then other than that, his biggest struggle, let's say, is balancing work, training, racing, and his nonprofit, which is called Be Addicted to Life, which we're going to talk about that a little bit more too. So, Airek, welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, so let's kind of... Like I said, I want to talk about the Ohio Grand Slam because that's super interesting, and the DRX games. But before we get into that, let's find out a little bit more about you. So you mentioned you were heavily involved with drugs. So kind of take us through that process, how you went from, athlete in high school into drugs and then into your competitive side, where you're at now.
Yeah. I got started with getting my heart racing. I like that adrenaline, cliff jumping. I did aggressive inline skating, so I was jumping off roofs and grinding down handrails and that sort of thing. Well, I was also a Jehovah's Witness, and that kind of kept me away from organized sports and competition for the most of my childhood. I found out I was pretty good at football. The coaches I started working out. My cousins, they were big football players. And I called up Brandon. I said, hey, can I come work out with you guys? And they guys work out there. And he sure enough, he let me come. And the coaches found out that they wanted me on their team. So I started when I was a junior. I was a JV. I played JV football and went from there. My senior year, I was honorable mention, most valuable player for like 4 out of the 6 games. I did pretty well, but I didn't want to go to college afterwards. It had a lot to do with just my upbringing, and I just ended up diving into drugs head first after that. It started small. It started with you drink on the weekends after your football games because you won, or you drink because you lost. You always have a reason to. And I felt like that was what the cool kids did. I wanted to be accepted. And so it's kind of the route I went, it got worse and worse. I ended up starting pills and dove into heroin. Overdosed on heroin with my son in the car.
Jeez.
And yeah, that's like the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. It's a pretty dramatic story. I just got done doing my last weekend in jail for I was driving under suspension, and I was pretty excited that I was done with my jail time. And I got a bag of dope, and it was real good. And I looked at my wife at the time. I was like, tomorrow I'm getting 2 bags. Well, I woke up. I'm a big believer in, we have a design in life, and sometimes we have to look for the design to know where we got to go. And when you look back on your life, it's like you can kind of see these moments where life is trying to tell you not to do something. Well, I woke up at my mom's house. We lived in this trailer park at the time, and I had this minivan. It was a 98 Dodge Caravan. Well, I went out to the car, and the tire's flat. It's like a 20-minute drive from Lancaster, which is where I came from. So I don't know how it just like got flat all of a sudden. Well, I had to try to find a donut. Couldn't find. I mean, these minivans, Evan, you can't. I'm looking in it like for like a car. How cars, you open up the trunk and that's in there. Well, I couldn't find it because it was underneath the bottom, and so it had been rusted shut. And I'm sitting in this gravel trying to bust it open, and I finally busted open. And once I get the tire off, and you have to guide it through this cable, like a needle and thread. Well, I pull it off, and I realize I don't have a jack, and I don't have a lug wrench either. So I have to go start knocking on doors. And I knocked on about 3 or 4 doors before I came to this parking lot that's filled with it has a kitchen sink. It has washers and dryers and refrigerators. I mean, it was like a small little junkyard, So the guy that answers the door come out, and he ended up giving me, he took me over to his pile of jacks, and he gave me a 4-way lug wrench and said that one of them will fit and I can just keep it, just bring the jack back. Well, finally I ended up getting the tire put on my car. The only problem was I didn't have any money. So I had to go in and find out. I collected these DVDs over a lifetime, man. And, Adam Sandler movies and old football movies like Friday Night Lights and The Program. Well, I take them to the pawn shop in Lancaster, Ohio, and they didn't want them. It was like a mini Blockbuster movies in there, honestly. But I convinced them that I was going to get my school check because I was in school at the time. I was going to come back and get my DVDs. Well, I never had that opportunity. You see, I took the money, got 2 bags of heroin, and when I shot them up in the car, I turned blue. My wife at the time, she grabbed me and she starts like punching me. Like, there's only 2 things you can do to a heroin addict when they fall out, when they get to this when they balance that line a little too far. One is throw them in a cold shower, and the other is you hit them as hard as you can and try to wake them up. Well, she didn't have a shower, so she's hitting me. My son's in the back seat, and eventually she pulls over when I'm blue, and I fall out of the car when she opens the door. My son's in the back seat crying, and neighbors had seen the whole episode unfolding. So they called 911. When they got there, they put me on a stretcher and tubes in my throat. And these tubes, when they go in your throat, they're breathing for you, right? Because I wasn't breathing. So it's kind of like you feel like Darth Vader, Well, I woke up as they were pushing me into the hospital, and everything was kind of like when you look underwater and everything's foggy. So I could see, but that's when I realized I couldn't breathe, because when I tried to breathe, it hurt because these things were in my throat, through my esophagus, like breathing for me. And this voice was like, did you do heroin? And I said, yeah, nodding my head. Next thing I know, I wake up again, and I'm in the hospital bed. They tried taking the tubes out of my throat, and I ended up going to jail that day. So everything changed. I was, the funny thing about addicts, man, and living that life. I was a good dad. I made a lot of bad decisions, but like when I was high, it wasn't like I wasn't enjoying my son's company. I take him to parks, made lesson plans for him. I was teaching him how to write his name, and I left a pretty big impact on him because, you know, even after I left, because I had to get away, I just couldn't. I wanted to get clean so bad, and I just couldn't do it, man. I just kept falling back. It's like they want you to jump through hoops of fire, change your whole life in an instant. You know, like you go from I'm just working and going to school and not getting in trouble, quote unquote. And then once you get out of jail, it's like they don't want you to get a job. They want you to go to 98 meetings, 90 days, and they want you to live in the homeless shelter. And they didn't even want me to drive my car. They said, you got a place you can just leave it because you can just walk to these places. And, you know, in my mind, I'm like, man, that set me up for failure. And sure enough, I couldn't do it. Well, I moved to Florida. When I moved to Florida, you know, my addiction came with me. And I used all kinds of – it started off with drinking again, and then crack. And crack turned into pills, and pills turned into meth, and meth went back. It just went all over the place. Well, one day – I had blown through like $300. I'm sitting in this abandoned house talking to my sister on the phone, and all my crack's gone, all my money's gone. You know, I called her up, and I was like, Monica, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And she goes, you ready? I'll get you. I was like, nah, I'm not ready right now, but it's soon. It's soon. I can't be doing this much more longer. So she ended up contacting this organization called Hope Without Dope. And shortly after, you know, a couple of weeks later, I called her up and I said, Monica, I'm ready. And she got me a plane ticket that day. And, well, within a couple days. And I ended up coming home. And I did 9 months with my freedom taken away from me. 5 months in jail, 4 months in rehab. So that 9 months is super symbolic to me, Evan. It's, you know, I feel like that was a point of rebirth for me.
That's a crazy story. I mean, that is insane. And to see you like pull from such a low depth, you know, to where you are now is truly inspiring. What is it that you think, you know, I mean, I don't know personally, I don't know the statistics, but yeah, I think a lot of people go down that route and never come back. You know, they end up in and out of jail for the rest of their lives, or they overdose, or, you know, they essentially die. Like, what is it that you think allowed you to pull yourself from that depth?
Yeah, to be completely honest, it was a large part of my upbringing. I think it kept me from doing a lot of really bad things. You know, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and so, I mean, I'd steal from stores, but like I could never steal from people. I tried my hardest because I knew I was doing things wrong. I was trying my hardest not to lie. So as far as making some really, really bad decisions that could have put me away for a lot longer, you know, like Grand Theft Auto or burglary and these types of things. I was pretty petty when it comes to as far as criminal. But what really brought me back was, you know, it's funny, man. We have to learn. You know, learning is super important. And it was almost as if I had to learn certain lessons before the next chapter of my life unfolded. One of those things I had to learn was that I was kind of lying to myself about things. And it all, like this part started, it was like a real sharp realization that kind of stung. Last time I got out of jail in Florida, I walked into this gas station in Zephyr Hills, and I just smoked a bunch of weed, and had this Bible in my back pocket, and I wanted so badly to be close to God. Well, and I didn't want to worship the money that I was always chasing. I wanted to recognize that this is first. Well, I bought my drink, and I kind of shuffled out of the store, and when I was leaving, the gas station attendant, he's talked to the person that was behind me. He's like, man, can you believe how messed up that guy was? And he kept his money in a Bible too. And I stopped for a second, man. And like, I just remember it's like a sharp, like, And So I wasn't the person who I thought I was. That was one thing that started to open the doors, and another was foresight. You see, like I never really thought about the end of the consequences, right? So, my grandpa stopped talking to me after my overdose with Peyton, and he stopped talking to me. Like, he didn't talk to me at all. He didn't want to see me. My grandma would answer the phone. My mom would always answer the phone, but my grandpa, he's like the one man that I'll love more than any other person in the world. You know what I mean? I spent a lot of time with him growing up, and he didn't want to talk. Well, slowly after some things, I started realizing that he's going to die. Like, he would die with worry on his heart because I didn't get my shit together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was going to die with, and that was my fault. He can't control those emotions. So, like, I hit deep, man. And the other part was my son. I had this, it's really, it's so weird, these things that happen. Well, I was at Crescent Lake with my wife at the time, and we're taking pictures and stuff. She took a picture of me with the cell phone. I had bags under my eyes, and she says, "Airek, you kind of look like Peyton right there." And I don't know where my mind was. I was probably up for a couple of days, but for some reason, Evan, my mind shot forward in time to this time where Peyton didn't understand why Dad never came home. He didn't understand what had happened, and he went and retraced my steps because he had to figure it out. And when that was one of those other realizations where I was able to kind of look in the future and see what would happen. And that's a huge thing, man. And the last was I had to realize that I couldn't get clean with my ex-wife. I used to take pride in, being so in love with her and so in love with the drug and it all balancing out. But eventually, with enough time spent apart, that feeling of love diluted farther and farther, and the drug kind of took a hold of her, and it was just, so I knew I couldn't get clean with it. It wasn't going to happen. So those are the three big things that kind of moved me forward as far as the realizations, along with, God and my upbringing keeping me from making some really bad decisions.
Gotcha. Now you go to, those 9 months, you're on the path to recovery, and tell me about how fitness kind of came into your life and how that.
Yeah. So every time I go to jail, man, I bit my time with push-ups. One person told me, he's like, "Man, when you get out, you should be a personal trainer, because, man, if I look like you, I want to, get trained by a guy that looks like you, And I was like, I never thought about being a personal trainer. And people would come around me and they'd want to do push-ups, and it was easy. I felt confident asking people to, hey, come work out with me. So that kind of happened naturally when I was in jail. But when I went to rehab, Andrew Klein, he owns a gym called CrossFit Alpha Pack out of Portsmouth. He does some volunteer work with the Star Justice Center, and he comes in there like once a week, puts people through a body weight CrossFit workout, and talks to people there. And when we would call Mr. Klein, when he came in, and he was telling me about this whole world that I was missing, and the way he described it to me was, it was insignificant to him, but to me, I was like, there's people out there that like train like this, and they go hard, and they're a team, and there's competitions. You're kidding me. He's like, no. And if you go to a CrossFit box anywhere in the United States, they're going to welcome you in there because you're CrossFit. And I was like, are you serious? And I'm like so engulfed in what he's telling me. So when I got out, I was looking for a CrossFit gym, and turns out one of my best friends from high school, Katie Woodall, she was into CrossFit, and so I started going with her when I got out.
Nice. And then how did that lead to OCR, and how much do you have your foot in CrossFit now, and OCR, like what's the balance there?
Okay. So it's total OCR now, but you see, there's a couple magazines we had in Star, and one of them there was a Tough Mudder like article, and I had all these people like wearing headbands and going through all these crazy obstacles. And I remember looking at it, and the people I was hanging out with, I was like, wouldn't it be sweet to have a team and go travel and do this kind of stuff? Man, that'd be so awesome. And after I broke my leg, that's all I wanted to do was run, because I couldn't run anymore. Like I had a boot, and I had a nail put in my leg. Well, it took a while to recover, and that kind of developed a lot of persistence in trying to run. Therefore, my therapist at one point told me I couldn't run. He forbid me to run because I was running like a baby deer, like hurt baby deer. Well, so once I started getting that clearance and going through all my therapy, that's all I wanted to do was be able to do backflips again and do all these things again. And I had to keep putting my race day farther and farther away. So I'd turn my race into a volunteer moment. And so I started volunteering all these races. And my first one was that Warrior Dash. And I fell in love. I went out so hard, and I thought I was doing so good, and I just busted within the first mile. And I died, dude. I straight died. I was laying on the ground, and I don't even know why I drank that beer afterwards. Oh gosh, that made everything so much worse. And my sister, I'm so glad my sister came with me, because there was no way I was driving home. And I was like, that was the craziest experience of my life. But I don't think I've ever felt that bad other than DRX games, man. That was, man, when I went to the DRX games, I was so glad that they took a little bit between the sixth event in the race, because I had to take every minute to recover. I had no idea I would be that taxed after all those events, man.
So what year was the Warrior Dash in?
Let's see. So we're in 2019, 2008. 2017, I think. Maybe late 2016.
Gotcha.
It might have been late 2016 at the end of the season.
Gotcha. And you mentioned very briefly the DRX games, and there was different events. So I think not all of our listeners are maybe familiar with the DRX games. So take us through the format of that event.
Oh, man. So I don't even know how I heard about the DRX games in the beginning. But I was like, oh, it's just a minute? Oh, man, that's going to be the cake. A minute of pulling a tire and doing box jumps and climbing rope. It's like, I got this. Well, so you get there, and it's a nice little atmosphere, you know. And then the events are set up where you get enough rest because of there's like 4 people that can go at a time, and they time everything, and then they take those times, and then they make the point system out of that. Well, the first event was a tire pull and drag. And I mean, I'm pretty strong, but I'm not accustomed to that sort of thing. So that was by far my worst event. It was just heavy, man, trying to pull it and run it back as many times as you can. You stand on this board, and it's a nice size tire that's connected to a rope, and you pull it all the way to you. And once it gets to you, you pick it up and run it back, and you keep repeating that. And then I think the second event was, I think it was a rope climb, and most of us didn't use our feet. And next year I'm going to use my feet, because the guy that won used his feet. And my biceps were toast after that. Oh gosh. But I came in second. I didn't come in first in any of these. Came in second in that. And then we had a tire jump, came in second on that. And it's a low tire jump, so it's like a box jump. And man, those are like rapid fire. I don't think I could have got. I don't know how first place got. It's just ridiculous, man. He must have just barely snuck one in there when I tripped or something a little bit. So I was smoking on that. And then there's after that, there's a tire flip, which I was doing amazing at. I was doing fantastic. And then someone screamed. It was, what's his name? with War X. Anyway, he was screaming, and for some reason I thought I was supposed to stop, and everyone else kept going, and then I had to start again, and so that would have helped me out a little bit. But that was a fun one, the big tire flip. After the tire flip, we have like a farmer's carry where you got like cement buckets, and I smoked through that. Then there's an Atlas carry, smoked through that. And then, but after you get done with all these, I mean, you got to go hard. You know what I mean? It's just a minute, and some of them aren't even a minute. Like the Atlas carry, it's just you go as hard as you can, as fast as you can, get back as quick as you can, and you're done. So, I mean, it's an all-out explosion of every bit you have, and you do that 6 times, man. My body was just like, it was like quivering on the ground. I couldn't move. And then we had the 3K afterwards, right? So that 3K, because of all 6 of those events, man, was tough. I wasn't expecting it to be that tough, but my legs were just jello, man. So it's by far it's a great end to my season. You know, like I have my OCR season, and it's normally from late May until September, and then I cut it off then so I can focus on other things. But, you know, having a couple things here and there, I mean, the DRX games is an awesome event.
Well, I have not experienced personally the DRX games yet, but I have done Taki's, dirt runner course for Midwest Mayhem and Warrior Rush. So I know some of the obstacles you're talking about, but I've never done them all out for a minute, which, and I think you hit it on the head. You're like, oh, it's only a minute, but if you're putting in max effort for a minute, like it's going to be awful.
Oh, gosh.
If it's not awful, you're not trying hard enough at that point.
You're right, man. Yeah.
And when is the DRX games? So Taki used to hold them at the permanent OCR venue, Dirt Runner, which is in Marcel, Illinois. But recently he took the show on the road. So he's actually traveling around for the game. So do you know when's the DRX games this year and what's the location?
The location is at the Black Diamond obstacle course, and it is it in September or August? I think it's in late August, isn't it?
I believe it's August 25th.
August. Yeah, the last weekend in August. It's on a Sunday, which is great because the JCC isn't open on Saturday. So I think there's a race that weekend so I'll be going to the DRX games right after that race.
Yeah, Taki usually likes to hold his events on Sunday. So the Black Diamond obstacle course, we've had Jason Goggins, the owner, on the podcast before, but that's where it's going to be held. It's in Ohio.
Yeah.
What's the town again for listeners? Columbus, Ohio. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio.
So if you want to hit it up, definitely check it out, especially if you're more of a strength guy and less of a runner, because the only running is the 3K. Everything else is basically OCR-specific movements, kind of like I think of it as like OCR strongman. Like there's the individual events, and they rank you, and then that determines your overall ranking. And how did you end up doing at the event?
Well, it turns out when you're the best second place finisher there, you come in second place at the end too. I finished second in most of them. I think I placed in the only 2 I didn't were the tire flip and the tire pull. Everything else was second place, including the run. All I wanted, the cool thing is about the DRX games is the awards. It's nice winning money and on that podium, but there's something better and in some respects when you can hang something on your wall that you can't spend. It's going to be there. So you get this Atlas stone if you come in first, and then if you come in first on the race, you get this lightning bolt. And then the medals for podiums are like they're 3-dimensional skulls that got some weight to them. I mean, I think he makes them himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, I believe he does. All the awards I have from Dirt Runner are all awesome, and I think you hit it on the head there. I have a golden dragon skull. It's like made of concrete. It's legit. I have a it's like a skull inside of like a Spartan helmet, also concrete, golden. I've got a giant spear. I've got a sword. And I actually agree with you with the, I win money from a lot of these events, and I can't tell you where that money goes. Like, I don't know, it goes into my bank account, or, I pay for my hotel. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I like being able to hang something on my wall and look at it, and it's a representation of, years of hard work and one day
Mm-hmm.
where it kind of all comes together and you put your body on the line. So,
Yeah. Man, you got a collection over there, don't you?
I do. I got a, yeah.
It's like a small museum.
Yeah.
It's
My
like
office,
national treasure over at Evan's house.
yeah, my office, I basically have a room downstairs where it's, like all my OCR stuff, all my OCR gear, and then all my trophies, and then where I'm recording this podcast. And anyone who orders like Bleg mitts or books, like it ships from down here in the office in the podcast room. So, yeah. And then DRX Games is also supposed to be coming to Kansas City later this year. I believe it's November 2nd. I'm going to double check that before the end of the podcast. So two opportunities there to get the DRX Games in. And do you remember who won first when you competed?
Kevin Wimmer.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's because he came in first on the rope climb because he used his legs.
Good tip for people. I know in the past, Christopher Balvin, who's from Strength and Speed, has won. And I know Jordan Buscemi, who's a Spartan Pro, he's also won. But what I like is like Christopher Balvin, he's a bigger guy. He's more muscle. He's typically not winning OCRs, but because it's so strength-based, it allows a different type of athlete to shine. So maybe someone who might be a little bit better at things like TMX type stuff, might be more suited for this. So,
absolutely.
Cool. Now let's get into the Ohio Grand Slam. Now, if any of you have picked up my latest or one of my latest books, Mud Run Guide's Ultimate OCR Bucket List, it covers both the DRX Games, Dirt Runners series of events, and it also covers the Ohio Grand Slam. The Ohio Grand Slam is a bunch of local OCRs that came together and created essentially a series, and has some great courses, some very unique obstacles. Frankly, it's one of the coolest series, in my opinion, in the country because each course is unique and run by its own race director and its own owner. So it's not like you're doing the Spartan National Series where it's the same obstacles on the same, basically the same course, minus, terrain and stuff like that. But one of the series is called Nightmare Challenge, and we've talked about some of the other series on this podcast before, but we haven't talked about Nightmare Challenge. So take us a little bit through Nightmare Challenge, how long it is, how many obstacles, some of the highlights.
Yeah. So the Nightmare Challenge is a 5K, so it's 3.1, and it takes you through the woods. There isn't a whole lot of open running. It takes place. So Lee and Lisa, they started this trail. It's called like a Night of Terror trail for Halloween. So all through the trail, there's like legs sticking up, and there's things that are like permanent. Like when you pull up to park, there's a hearse with like a body inside. Well, so you come out into the opening to start out, and it's got like a little windy hill that you go up, and it goes immediately into some woods. Lots of uphills and downhills. They're sharp climbs. It's very muddy, where you're not going to get out of there without getting some mud on you. I'd say how many obstacles? I think there's over 20 for sure. All kinds of different difficulty on them, since most of them are permanent obstacles. I think all of them are permanent obstacles, actually. They're all season, but like they have monkey ropes. So it's just monkey bars where you're using ropes to go through as the bars. And I've never had that in any other race. And I've done quite a few. That's the only time I've done monkey ropes. It's got a rock wall you climb. And when you get to the top of these taller obstacles they all sway. They all go back and forth a little bit. So it's kind of creepy. I mean, they're totally sturdy. I mean, it's just they're taller obstacles. So when you come down on them, they get pretty muddy towards the end. And then they have Mean Green. So Mean Green is like arguably Ohio's toughest obstacle. When I first did the Nightmare Challenge, I'm battling for first, second, and third. It was one of the most fun racing experiences I've had, where you're just kind of, in there with two other guys, like going back and forth. Well, when we got up to Mean Green, like none of us could get through right away. So every single one of us dropped off, and slowly everyone started catching up. And finally, I think it was Jamie Case. He was the first person to make it through, and he ended up winning first place. So it's one of those obstacles that's just like, it's a game changer for people, right? You have to know the technique to get through it. And then they have another one, which is called Mini Mean Green, I think, Mini Green. And it's like you go uphill, and they're like rings, only they're tires. So you're traveling at a uphill with like monkey tires, and it finishes with this huge massive mud puddle with a mound of mud with ropes coming down. And not the last one, but the year before, me and Matt Mullins, we got there at the same time. We just kind of looked at each other, and we stopped for a moment, looked at each other, and just went. And he was the first person to get up. He took first place that day, and I ended up getting second. But yeah, man, lots of good racing experiences there. Every race that I've had there has been memorable. I've talked to people, and they're like, man, this is harder than any Spartan race I've done. This is the hardest race I've done all season. So the difficulty is definitely there because of the terrain and the obstacles. But as far as it would be nice if there was more competition that came out there as well. We have a good showing, but I'd like to have more competition out there,
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting the word out there a little bit better. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they pay $250 for the first place winner. I mean, that's a big payout, right? Second place gets $150, and I mean, especially for a smaller race venue. So like, third place, that gets $100, right? And then
how much
all
is
the age groups.
How much is entry usually?
I think it's like $70. Okay. Late entry fee, something like that.
Yeah, so I know some people who are like, oh, the payout's smaller than a Spartan race. It's like, yeah, well, if they're charging you half the entry price, like the payout's probably going to be smaller. It's a risk.
Yeah.
It's like betting, right? If you play smaller up front, you're probably going to get less of a return. So if you actually look at a lot of these smaller venues, if you look at the cost of entry compared to like what you get back if you win, sometimes it's actually you get a better return on your investment. Excluding obviously travel and hotel costs, but which may add things. But at the same time, it's like you were saying, it's a unique experience versus if you go to a series race, it's basically gonna be the same wherever you go, minus the terrain. So,
yeah, the whole Grand Slam it's amazing, man. Like being able to meet personally with the owners of the races. I mean, they're there. They put their blood, they put their sweat into the races. They're working on them all year long, trying to keep them up. And then they have their other jobs, so they're doing their own marketing and everything. So it's nice being able to like say hi and tell the person that put this on like your opinion of it. I mean, they're all right there to talk to you. Shake your hand, encourage you. I mean, it's a homey, welcoming atmosphere for sure. It's a different feel than when you go to one of like a Spartan race. There's so many people at a Spartan race. You go to the local races. It's kind of like, I mean, I guess you can get the same community when you go there long enough, but it's just I like the homey type feel.
Yeah, concur. Now, what are the races in the Ohio Grand Slam?
Okay, so the first one kicks off with the Black Diamond Memorial Day Mayhem. It's every year on Memorial Day. The second one this year was the Black Swamp Dash. It's a OCR Worlds qualifier, and it's fun. It's located in North Ohio, near Toledo and in Ottawa County at the Ottawa County Fairgrounds. The third race is Indian Mud Run, which provides an awesome experience. I mean, you can look into the Indian Mud Run. It's got nothing but fantastic reviews. I mean, the obstacles are just insane. It's got a good distance. They have a Chiefs Challenge where you're racing. If you can complete the course, which is like something, it's almost 7 miles, like 6.6 or something like that. If you complete the whole thing 3 times, then you get an award at the end, like a authentically made Indian arrow. The awards you get: spears for podiums, tomahawks, all of it's authentic Indian made. And then the next one after that would be Nightmare Challenge. And the last one this year, which is tomorrow, is Mud Ninja. And Mud Ninja, you get swords, man. Like, it says Mud Ninja on there, like a ninja sword. Hang that on my wall.
Yeah, and they give those out not only for overall but also for age group. So if you can podium in your age group, you get a sword, and depending on where you podium determines the length of your sword. So that if you get first, you get a bigger sword than the guy who came in third, for age groups. So yeah, if our listeners, are new to the podcast and want to go back and listen, the Jason Goggins episode, we cover Memorial Day Mayhem, which is at Black Diamond OCR. Black Swamp Dash, we've had the owners on before.
Troy and Sandy.
Yep, Troy and Sandy Anthony. We've had them on. That was one of our early episodes, season 1 there. And Indian Mud Run, we've had Hubie Cushman on earlier this year. And Mud Ninja, if you go back and listen to the Amy Pagic episode, we talk about Mud Ninja in that. And I think we actually talk about Indian Mud Run and Black Swamp Dash in that one also too. So counting you, now we have the Nightmare Challenge covered. So that's it. We got all of them. I feel better about myself. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely like to give back to the local race series because I think they're just a ton of fun. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And this year I started just out of fun. It would be nice to see where it goes. I started ranking everybody. I take all the results from each race, and then everyone just gets a basic point system. So if you place top 20 overall, you get face value of your points. So if you get first place, you get 1 point. If you get 20th place, you get 20 points. If you attended the race, you get 25. If you didn't attend the race, then you get 30 points. And so I've been keeping track of that. And so maybe sometime in the future, like the point system is more official, right? So that's super exciting. It's just something fun to look at right now, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're definitely taking steps in the right direction, right? I mean, you do this 1 year, and then next year you email a couple of companies and ask them to throw in some sponsor gifts for top 3 or whatever, and maybe eventually you get prize money in there for the essentially the series. So I think it's a great step in the right direction. There's a lot of companies that it's usually a lot easier to get product out of companies than it is to get money because they can see their product going into the hands of people versus money. It's like, all right, well, that money's gone. I don't know what they're spending it on. So it's yeah. I mean, we've given away product for some of the events I've done, and it's a nice touch, and people use it, and yeah, I think you're heading in the right direction. I think that'll be cool to see the actual series kind of come together officially. And I know if you do all the races, you get a special award.
Yeah,
regardless of your placement.
Like if you do 4 of the races, you get a T-shirt. If you do all 5 races, you get a T-shirt. And the T-shirts are nice, man. They're nice and soft. It's multicolored. I'm actually wearing it right now. And then if you do all 5 of them, you get a medal hanger to put each one of the medals from the series on it.
And if anyone owns Mud Run Guide's Ultimate OCR Bucket List, there's a picture of the medal hanger in there, so you can check that out. It's also also just released it on digital, so you can actually download it off Amazon. It's in it's good only for tablets and phones essentially because it's like a digital PDF, but it is color, and the links on it are actually active, so you can actually download it to your phone or your tablet and then click on stuff, and it directs you to their website and stuff like that. So Or if you like the hard copy, I prefer hard copy books myself. Again, you can order that off teamstrengthspeed.com. All right, let's get into your charity, your organization there that you started. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so essentially it started as a blog, trying to understand my history and everything, trying to make sense of my past. Didn't want it just to disappear, you know what I mean? Because I said that, that big transition I had, it's like I could essentially just kind of forget about that part of my life if I wanted to, but I didn't want to. So I started blogging about it, and I just kept asking, the question, what's next? What's the purpose of this? And eventually it kind of grew into wanting to be addicted to life is what it was about, right? And I'm sitting in bed one day and I'm trying to figure out how to shorten that up, because be addicted to life is it's just long on the tongue. And so I'm playing around with acronyms, and I was like BA2L, and I was like, that's battle. Oh, that'd be sweet, So I just ended up calling it battle. Be addicted to life, and what it's really about is trying to provide health coaching to people that can't afford it. Health is a huge component in staying clean, and just growing in general. When we're living life of the criminal life that I had, especially in addiction, I mean, last thing we're doing is anything healthy. I'm sure it's not going to the gym. I'm living off Little Debbie's and pizza. I'm not taking care of my body. I'm not taking care of my mind. I'm not taking care of my spirit. And so if we can help people who are going through recovery, and whatever it is, it might be you're recovering from food addiction or physical inactivity, and just or drug addiction, or eating and like not eating, like whatever it is that you're addicted to, when we can start adding health into the picture, like a whole health, your whole person, and being aware of how the things we allow, the things that we read, and the things that we allow into our body, through our senses, how they affect and nourish us, as well as the things that we speak out and the words that we use, and what we choose to write, and how we choose to talk, and the things that we choose to talk about to other people, how that is an expression of who we are, right? And how we're nourishing our body, all these things, and just helping people develop that health side, I think, is vitally important in maintaining just a healthy lifestyle, free from addictions, really unhealthy.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're doing great work. I know I love that you overcame your personal addictions, but then essentially stopped and reached back to helping hand for other people. I feel like that really fits into like the OCR community of, climbing over the obstacle and then helping the next person get over it. So love that. Where can people find the website and the information about it?
Yeah, so it's www.Arek's Battle, so it's AIREK, battle.wordpress.com. It's also like on my Instagram. My handle is @Airek, spelled with an AIREK _Dilley, DILLEY.
Gotcha. And once the podcast publishes, we'll actually post a link to your blog on the Strength and Speed Facebook page. So if anyone's interested, they can go check that out and peruse that. Cool. What else you have, before we let you go, what else you have planned for 2019?
Man, I'm already starting to plan for 2020. Like my big goal this year was to be able to run up hills a lot better, and I'm doing a lot better with that. And so I'm planning my race schedule for next year. DRX games. I'm thinking about doing the pack series or whatever something about the pack, wolf pack. And then I have a couple stadiums that I want to do by the end of the year. But mainly I want to really spend a lot of time with my future wife and my daughter and my son, because this whole summer has been all about racing, and I got to get back to, those. I'm trying to keep everyone, involved in my life more.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance. It is a
Yeah,
tricky balance.
yeah. It's so nice when family members are understanding and they work with me. Like my mom, she's been working with me a lot, and my son, I'm gonna pick him up tomorrow after the race, and he's gonna stay for the whole week. Super excited about that. NORAM's coming up, so I'm super excited about that too. There's a lot of fun stuff that's happening.
Yeah. All right. Before we let you go, any final shout outs you want to give? Friends, family, sponsors, anything else?
Yeah, just a real huge, massive thanks to Lee and Lisa Emerson from Nightmare Challenge. Without them, seriously, my race career would be virtually almost non-existent. So they are amazing. And Nightmare Challenge, I love the OCR Grand Slam. I can't wait to see more and more people start enjoying these races and supporting this cause. Many of the registrations, they go to different charities too. So I think, and of course my girlfriend Teresa, my son Peyton, and my daughter Azalea.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. Your story was incredible. I mean, I knew the wave tops of it beforehand, but I did not know all the details. And I love when I bring a guest on and they start talking. I'm like, damn, this is really good information. Like, it's serious. It's moving. It's and then the most important part is you pull yourself out of the depth, right? Like,
Yeah.
It shows like you can hit low and recover and have a successful life and career and stuff like that afterwards. And like I said, with you reaching back to help other people, I think that's super inspiring also. So thank you for all the work you've been doing in that front.
Yeah.
And
thanks a lot, Evan, for having me on.
Yeah, it's been great. And I will see you at North American Championships.
I'll see you at NORAM.
Yeah, this podcast will come out probably just before that. So any of our listeners, I'll see you there also. Make sure you stop by the booth. We will have a booth set up at North American OCR Championships. We'll be selling some books and some bleg mitts. So feel free to stop by and say hi, just to BS for a while, or pick up a copy of a book, or, do whatever. I think I'm also going to bring my actual Normatec pants, like the inflatable recovery pants that inflate by zones. So if anyone wants to get in, if like Leah says, if anyone wants to get in my pants, you'll have that opportunity at NORAM. So I'm going to bring those out to the event. So help people recover and kind of prepare for the next day. Yeah, that'll all be at the table, which will be inside Thursday, which is the registration day. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it'll actually be out kind of under that covered area, that main part where the Force 5 / Mud Gear rig was last year. Come by, hang out. I can watch your bag for you. You can, because we'll have people at the table the whole time. And that goes for all our listeners. Just kind of mention the podcast and, you're welcome to crash there and hang out and kill some time. And that's about it. Airek, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And the listeners, I'll see you in a couple of weeks also. I hope everyone has a good weekend.